our current New York State Senator for the 11th District. Please come up, Senator Tony Avella.
First of all, thank you once again for the Bay Terrace Community Alliance for holding this candidates night. It is always the most attended of any candidates night than any organization holds. So you should always be proud of that. I am running for re-election. This would be my third term in the Senate. And as you know, I represented this area in the City Council for 8 years. I didn't represent Bay Terrace when I was first elected to the Senate. I only picked up Bay Terrace when after redistricting for the 2012 election. But I know many of you would constantly write to me and ask me to solve problems, and I still worked on it, even though I didn't represent the area. So I'm not going to take too long. I think you know who I am. I'm ready to take some questions. I look forward to working with you again after the primary and after the general election. Well, is it too fast for you? You know?
First question I'd like to ask you is, would you support the reinstatement of the New York City commuter tax, estimated to raise $856 million in revenue beginning in 2015, if a vote is taken again in the Senate?
Absolutely. The vote to get rid of the commuter tax was done maybe, 20 years ago at this point? And it was done, and this is a very good question for me, because it shows the amount of politics that's in governing, which I've always fought against. There's too much politics in governing. The reason we lost the commuter tax was over a state Senate seat. It was over a race for the Senate. And the Democratic leaders, I'm a member of the Democratic Party, decided that the commuter tax was too controversial for this particular race. And I think it was in Rockland County, I don't remember the upstate county. So as a result, somebody in the audience is shaking their head that I'm right. So as a result, to take that issue off the table, because they wanted to win that race, we lost the commuter tax. Almost $500 million every single year. It's a disgrace. We need to get that back. I'm not a fan of raising taxes, but those individuals who come from outside New York City benefit from the police protection, they benefit from fire protection, they enjoy the parks, they could pay a little bit more for the services in this city. So absolutely. In fact, I'd be happy to introduce the bill.
Senator, part of this campaign has focused on the IDC and your membership in the IDC. I read the Gotham Gazette today, and they had focus on this contest.
I'm glad somebody reads that article.
And they part of the article said Avella stresses that the IDC, and no disrespect calling you Avella, that's what they called you in the article.
You can call me Tony.
Yes, right. Avella stresses that the IDC is not going to give up any power. The deal is not that we go back, but that we will form a Democratic majority coalition that will be a mirror of the one that the IDC has with the Republicans right now. So my question, will you remain a member of the IDC if they once again should decide to caucus with the Republican conference?
No, and I've already stated this publicly.
Okay.
The IDC was set up before I got there, and it's been the ruling body for the Senate for the past 2 years. Unfortunately, as a member of the Democratic Conference, you couldn't get anything done. And you didn't elect me to sit there and twiddle my thumbs for the last year in the Senate. You elected me to get things done for the district and for the entire state. As long as I didn't have to change my principles and change a position on any issue, which I didn't, why not be in the room for a majority coalition that already exists? My joining the IDC didn't change the vote on any major issue. It would have remained the same had I not joined. But the difference was, instead of passing maybe 1 or 2 bills, I passed 17 bills. Instead of getting $0 for the schools in this district, for the parks in this district, I got $6.5 million to bring back to this district. 1.7 for the school, okay. But the answer is yes, because if we actually, if I can just have 30 seconds.
So the
We-
answer is you won't be made a member.
Right. In fact, we already had a discussion about this. If the Democrats can have a majority with the IDC and we don't go back, we're not Democrats. I'm a Democrat. So that's my commitment. I've already said it publicly.
I want to ask a question that I just became aware recently. In Queens County, if an individual wishes to sue someone in small claims court, there is currently a 7-month backlog for the claimant to be heard by a New York State judge. I just couldn't believe that when I heard that. Do you agree the New York State court system needs reform, and what can you propose to reduce this backlog?
Well, I don't think any candidate who is going to come before you tonight wouldn't agree that the court system needs reform. And the backlog across the board needs to be eliminated. The best way to deal with it is we have to put money in the budget. Because we're going to have to hire some more judges to hear these cases. We've made some progress in that respect, but obviously we need to do more. I wasn't aware of the specific situation that you just mentioned, but I'm going to work on it because that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Oh, I did that one on time, or I just got in on the one? Can I build that 30 seconds onto the next question?
When you were a member of the city council, you were able to appoint community board members. In fact, you appointed me to the community board many, many years ago.
No, we won't say how many years
A
ago.
lot of years, a lot of hours. Do you believe that 16 and 17-year-olds should be eligible for community board service? They are now, due to legislation that's been signed into law by the governor and by the city. Yes.
No, I don't think by the governor. I don't think that has not come
Yeah, I
before
think
us.
it
By
went-
the mayor,
didn't it go
maybe.
through the-
No,
think
it didn't go through the state.
I'm sure that was Nilly Ronzek, wasn't that her bill?
No, but it didn't pass
Okay,
because I would not have voted for it.
okay. Well, please tell us why. Thank you.
You know, I think, and somebody can check the records, I was probably one of the youngest people on Community Board 7 when I was a member, but I wasn't 16 or 17. Community boards are a great mechanism for the community to be represented with the City of New York. I don't think 16 and 17-year-olds have the experience to be in such a position. And in fact, many of us, and I'm included, want to give the community boards more power. I don't think they're at the level of maturity to actually vote on some of these issues. Because Board 7 is a good example. You're always at the maximum. And there's always people who are on waiting lists. So I'm not in favor of this. 16 and 17-year-olds can actually become a member of a committee now. We don't even need legislation for that. So they could be a member of a committee. They could have a role in the committee process. And that would be their way to get involved in local community. But I'm not in favor of that.
And the last question, this is from the audience. There's been a lot of questions for both the candidate for governor and for state senate. Would you support a ban on fracking in New York State?
Oh, gee, is that a setup question?
and support offshore wind as a way of producing power?
Two-part question. Would I support the ban on hydrofracking? I introduced the ban legislation in the state legislature on hydrofracking. I am the leader in the state legislature on banning hydrofracking. This is by far the most single important environmental issue that we face in this state in the last 100 years. If we allow this to happen, our drinking water, our environment is going to be forever damaged. Because part of the hydrofracking process, I can't answer this in 30 seconds, because there's a second part of the question. Do I have a little more time for the second part of the question? You know what I'll do? I'll get to it when I do my closing.
Well, as a senator, as a follow-up, could you please speak a little bit more on that.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. No, so I've been leading the fight, and with the volunteer community groups throughout the entire state, this is the largest grassroots effort on any issue in the history of this state to ban hydrofracking. Again, I can't tell you how important this is to our drinking water here in the city of New York. And I'm very proud of the fact that the League of Conservation Voters and the Sierra Club, the two environmental groups, are the only two groups that do endorsements in the state of New York, have both endorsed me for my reelection.
Sure. One more question? If you-
Sure, sure.
Okay. You know, as you know, I mean, schools are important to everybody throughout the district, especially here in Bay Terrace. We have a large concentration of teachers. This year, you voted for the budget resolution that included co-location protections. Could you explain that vote?
I actually have a bill in the Senate to put a moratorium on co-locations. I don't support them. I think it's a disgrace because it takes away from the regular school. It limits the amount of space that the kids in that school have. But, you know, and this is a good question because it comes down also to governing. Every year we have to come up with a budget, we have to do it in the Senate and the Assembly, and the governor has to agree. The governor actually introduces the budget, how to do it in the city council as well. Do you vote for a budget because maybe there's one or two things in it you don't like, but there's 1,000 things in the budget you do like? Sometimes you have to make hard decisions. I didn't like the fact of the co-locations. I certainly didn't like the fact about the money that was put for the charter schools. I've always been an opponent of charter schools. But at the same time, there's other things in the budget. I'm not in favor of shutting down the government for the sake of one issue. You have to sometimes make some hard decisions.
And the final decision is a 2-minute closing.
Okay. All right. Well, once again, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for having this tonight. I've enjoyed your support in past elections when I was in the city council and helping me. Well, you didn't help me get elected to the state senate the first time. I didn't represent you the first time. But the second time around in 2012, when I won by 73% of the vote, I've always done what I think is right by you and the people of this state. I don't care about the politics. I hate politics. I do what I think is right. I don't care about the political consequences. Because sometimes, if you do that, that hurts you. And the one thing I can always, point to as an example, some of you may remember when I was in the city council and voted against the highest property tax increase in the history of this city. I voted against it because most of you were going to be affected by it, negatively affected by it. I was punished, really punished, for doing that when I was in the city council. I didn't care because I thought it was the right thing to do by you. I still stand by those principles. I will always do what I think is right for you. And I'm working on a lot of issues that sometimes are very controversial, but they're the best thing for you. And one thing I will mention that I'm very proud of, and I'll finish on that. When we talk about property taxes, co-op and condos, Bay Terrace, you pay an inordinate amount of property taxes, more than you should. And I fought for the last couple of years to introduce the bill that would equate your property taxes with 1, 2, and 3 family homes. I'm proud to say that my bill passed the Senate this year. It still has to pass the Assembly, but it is an absolutely historic event that for the first time, co-ops and condos, at least we're moving ahead so that you'll pay a fair share because you are affordable housing in this city. Listen, I thank you for your support in the past. I hope to get it again.